Call to order our Londonderry Utilities Committee meeting for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We're in the Moose Hill Conference Room in Town Hall for anybody who wants to come down and visit us in person. So first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we start every meeting with any public comment out there. Nothing tonight, Doug? So move on from that. No public comment. So we are moving into right into our discussion with Freedom Energy Logistics and the Colonial Power Group. So just a little bit of background for everybody. We met with Bart Fromuth and Stu Ormsby a month ago, six weeks ago, or probably 2 meetings ago, back in August,
Yep.
right? And at that point in time, we went through some of the background on where we're at. You're right here. Good to see you.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, and I need to do one point of order before we go any further too. So we are down a couple of full-time members. Ann Fenn is not here, and Mike Speltz is not here, so I'm going to appoint John Mann for Ann, and Joy Mueller will vote for Mike Speltz. Okay, so we had Freedom Energy and Colonial Power Group back in August to talk about community power aggregation. At that point in time, we asked them to provide us with an updated draft plan that goes to the PUC, power aggregation plan that goes to the PUC. The PUC blesses it. That's one of the early steps in this whole process of getting a community power aggregation program underway. So we got the document, and the Energy Subcommittee met 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, to go through it. We gave our comments back. I think generally we were happy with what it said. We had some comments. We gave the comments back to the team at FEL and CPG, and so we want to go through their responses tonight. What I would like to do is walk down through the different documents, the different comments that we had. I'd like to limit the comments to what the subcommittee has already provided to them. If there's any substantial issues, which I don't believe there are, but if there are, then obviously feel free to speak up. But I think what I would like to do tonight is get a final understanding for what the document is, and if we are all in agreement, our next step would be to give it to the town manager and have him forward it to our legal team for their review. So that's what I look at as our next step. Now, one thing I'd also ask you to take a look at is what are our next steps in this program? And if you have any type of timeline that you could start talking to us about, just to kind of see where the end goal is and what we have to do to get there and when we'll get there. So I think we're all curious about that. So with that, Kelly, would you mind scrolling through the document? And when we get to the comments, we'll just stop and we'll talk through each one, and we'll come to an agreement of some sorts before we move on to the next. Sure. And it says Jim Speltz in the Word document. Those are actually Mike Speltz's comments, just for clarification for everybody.
Yeah, so do you want me to start with the
Right
first
in,
one, Lynn?
Yeah, please, dive right in.
Yeah, so we covered this during the last meeting. We brought in CPG as the subcontractor for this program for the town of Londonderry. Permission was given per the contract by former town manager Kevin Smith. CPG, for any of you that weren't here last time, operates 80 such aggregations in the state of Massachusetts, including the city of Boston. They have an extensive portfolio, and again, just to refresh anybody from last time, I helped draft the initial legislation under SB 286 to get this program off the ground and authorized in the state of New Hampshire. But COVID happened shortly thereafter, And although we had bulked up our team to support this, Stuart and I started to cross paths at the PUC and the unofficial docket that started in late 2020, and decided to be best if we partnered up for purposes of this program and our customers here in New Hampshire. So we've formed kind of a joint venture, if you will, where we serve our communities together as one consultant. And so that's what you have here before you today.
So I guess the question, Bart, came in my mind, and guys, jump in if I misstate this, but it's really so who are we working with? Are we working with, a company consisting of the two partners, or are we working with the two partners individually, or in kind of who's doing what? And we were wondering if that had to really be specified in this document, just to give us some clarity on who's responsible.
Sure. So I would say in terms of a lot of the production of the CCA here in Londonderry, some of the finer points, the filing of the docket, the filing of the application, and the aggregation plan. Stuart's going to handle that. He wrote most of this aggregation plan based upon his experience in Massachusetts. We had written one as Freedom a couple years ago that we were going to use, and we scrapped that for a more updated plan. So as I mentioned before, our company, Freedom Energy Logistics, is about 44 individuals. CPG is another 6 or 7, I believe. So you are working with both companies and have our resources at your disposal. Some of the things that we offer in conjunction will be helping out with public education to make sure that Stuart or myself are going on your Londonderry television and helping to educate people in terms of what they can expect in terms of the program and their rights under the program. As we move forward, Stuart will be primarily the point person for working with you. But again, as I talked about last time, my experience as a former state rep here in the state of New Hampshire has helped to get a number of changes, positive changes through for the program. We recently got purchase of receivables passed with the legislature under HB 315, which really enabled these programs to move forward because it guarantees the credit of every customer in the town of Londonderry, any CCA that wants to move forward, which is an important point in order to attract suppliers to this marketplace. We had the enabling legislation under SB 286, but without purchase of receivables, guaranteeing that credit, suppliers were unwilling to take the risk. And the risk is this is a universal access program, meaning no one can be denied access to this program. Once you've offered it to your ratepayers in town, you have to provide it to everybody. And that requirement on suppliers, if they have to take on all these customers without verifying their credit or their bad debt, if you will, is a very daunting task. So HB 315 paved the way for that, and we played a significant role in getting that passed. So I'm kind of more in terms of the lobbying efforts, working with regulators. I handle a lot of the filings and the dockets with the PUC, but like I said, Stuart's going to be the front man for a lot of the pre-production stuff that we're going to be working on together. So,
Hey, I just want to follow that up quickly. When we originally signed the agreement, Kevin Smith signed the agreement
Yes.
with FEL.
Yes.
Only FEL.
yes.
When you say that you formed this joint venture, was that memorialized in any writing?
Between FEL and CPG?
And the town of Londonderry.
Well, under the agreement that we have with the town, it gives us the right to assign some duties to subcontractors if we have permission of the town, which we received from Kevin Smith. We advised him of our desire to bring in CPG, and he gave the town's blessing. That was, I don't know, a year and a half ago at this point. So,
But-
Lynn, that was my same question, but
Yeah.
I think what Mike was getting to, we already went over this the last time you were here, and you explained it again, which is good, but how do we document this? In other words, it's very unusual to sign a contract with a company and then include another company in there. Whose feet are we gonna hold to the fire, and who's gonna be responsible for what? According to original contract, it's only FEL.
Correct.
and FEL still has responsibilities under the contract. We haven't diminished in terms of our duties under the contract. So it is our duty under the contract to provide you all the services enumerated therein. And so Stuart and CPG, I see as an added benefit to the relationship that we have with Londonderry. And I just go back to the point that prior to CCA being passed in New Hampshire, there's not one single company that had any experience bringing CCAs in the state, and therefore calling
I'm
on
not saying
a-
it's not a good thing. I don't think you
I'm sorry.
understand me. I'm not saying it's not a good thing.
Okay.
But contract-wise, maybe it's something for Mike to decide. I don't feel comfortable with having two names on a contract that originally had one name.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe I'll say it a different way, and I see the exasperation. The way I see it is, both companies are named here in the second paragraph of the introduction, but who's responsible for what? And then, once again, we have a contract with FEL.
Yes.
So FEL, as far as we're concerned, is FEL who we're dealing with.
Yes. If you want to look at it that way, and FEL then subcontracted some duties to CPG. So we could put, if you'd like to, in the plan, it could reference FEL directly because that is where the contract is for lack of any confusion. And then Stuart and I could provide you with a rundown, a list of duties that you can expect for us and our subcontractor to be working on under this contract if that satisfies the committee.
I'd like that and Mike to review it, of course.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you be willing to be jointly and severally liable for any problems with the contract if there's some sort of litigation?
So Freedom's already liable.
So this is what's kind of weird too, there's already a contract in place. And
Right.
This is a plan talking about the execution of that contract, I guess is the way I look at it. So, in terms of contracts, you ask a very good question, but I think that's kind of out of the scope of what we'd be putting in this plan. I don't know if that's what everybody, no?
I would want that.
Yep,
So we have a contract signed some time ago. This plan is what you need to get through the regulatory bodies,
That's correct.
okay? So you have to present to the regulatory bodies your plan. This is what we plan to do. And they've included, Colonial Power to add credence to the plan, that they actually have the right resources to pull this off.
So you're saying a different document versus the contract.
Bingo.
Okay, I understand that.
It's an aggregation plan for a regulatory body to take a look at, see if it meets all the New Hampshire regulations and so forth and so on. And it's a test to see whether or not we have the right expertise, either as, general contractor or a subcontractor, as I understand it. And then they will either reject or approve that plan. That's the way I look at it. The contract that was signed years ago is still in effect.
yep.
Correct.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
still in effect. So I wouldn't confuse the two necessarily.
Got it.
Does that help?
Oh,
Helps.
that's what, you explained it more eloquently than I did, that was exactly where I was coming from.
And,
But
sorry, and if I could kind of add to that theme, I think, and Bart was kind of whispering to me before the meeting commenced, that maybe the better way to address it in this document, to your point, is upfront. We can talk. I'm going to skip over exactly in this second paragraph what the right wording is, but the point is that throughout the document, you have a consultant that you're working with, and that consultant happens to be a tag team effort between two companies. Now, how you want to characterize, and I defer to your advice on how you want to characterize the tag team effort in the second paragraph. I think if we carry that through, and I think you make a great point that, there is an element of making the commission comfortable that the town is being well advised.
Right.
Okay. So with that said, I still like the idea of having a chart somewhere defining, or not so much defining, but specifying who's responsible for which activities.
And if I could add, I think throughout this document, there's dozens of instances that makes explicit the responsibility of the town's consultant. And I think that's pretty well documented. I guess I'm a little unclear whether you're asking for an amendment to your agreement with Freedom
Just the table saying that,
that summarizes what's in the plan?
Yep.
Or- Okay.
Yep. I think just a table that summarizes who's doing what, I think,
It-
for me, would be a big benefit, and then I could, if I needed more edification, I could go into the plan and read about what that is.
Okay.
In the table would be
Like an appendix?
just an information item or something you're going to append to the Freedom Agreement? I'm just,
No, I would put it as just an appendix to the plan.
oh, I see, okay. I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not looking at changing anything that's already under contract.
Okay. We can do that.
We good? Moving on? Next item's from John Mann. Page 4.
Yeah, maybe I'll start by addressing this point. It's a fair point. As a practical matter, it's almost impossible to do. And I say that because the rates that third-party suppliers are offering are constantly changing. They're different amongst third-party suppliers. As a practical matter, you can't really make that comparison. So you're kind of left with making just sort of a binary comparison to what the utility default rates are.
And I think an important point to be made in this context is that this program targets those customers that are with the utility on standard offer service. You know, so those customers that haven't made an affirmative choice to go with a single third-party supplier. And to Stuart's point, you know, you'll find that sometimes there are rates that are, 3 months or 6 months. You get a nice low fixed rate for that period of time, but maybe the contract terms aren't as ironclad in terms of the consumer protections, or that contract expires and the next thing you know, your electricity rate has gone into holdover and gone up by 3 or 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And because of all those variables, very, very difficult to make a comparison against all of those private suppliers, but B, the target market that we're going for are those customers that have decided to remain with the utility on the standard offer. And that's what this really is Londonderry's alternative standard offer is the way to look at it.
I had a couple of concerns when we were in the meeting. One was, do you have a feel for how many, or a percentage perhaps, of Londonderry's users are using Eversource as their, a percentage of the group?
That's made up data.
Oh, okay, sorry. I guess I didn't cite it.
So we don't have actual data yet. We haven't collected that from Eversource yet. Generally speaking, usually, I think, sorry, Mr. Mahan, you're asking about what's the breakdown in terms of how many residents might be with third-party suppliers versus
Statewide on the residential side, it's about 18 to 22% that go with a third-party supplier in the residential sector, which would leave you about 82 to 78% of your residents would be on standard offer service with Eversource. Those numbers may have changed slightly after last winter when rates went to 26 cents a kilowatt hour. There was significant increased shopping. I just don't have those numbers yet from the PUC.
So then my next question would be, if the rates that we got from you fellows weren't competitive or close to those third-party rates, would you be concerned that maybe the mass of people that we bring to you would be not sufficient to sustain a program? One of the things I think is you start to educate people about there's choices other than the standard supplier out there. I would think the next thing they would do is do what I did a couple of years ago, Google it.
Sure.
And find that there's a website, and oh my God, they list all these guys there, and I've been ripped off all these years.
Sure. Yeah, no.
All right. So now we've sort of opened Pandora's box by saying we got a program. The first thing I would do as an educated, semi-educated consumer is go look at the program and say, hey, is that the best deal out there, or am I going to look for a better deal?
Sure.
And do we lose that battle because we're comparing to Eversource as opposed to competing with the third-party guys?
I'd say that the data, certainly from Massachusetts, backs up the idea that once we send out our opt-out notices, we're probably going to have about 8 to 9% range of opt-outs, meaning folks like yourself, Mr. Mahan, that decide to either stay with Eversource or go and find a private supplier where they like the deal terms better. We do have a lot going for us in that we are buying for a very, very large portfolio, and so that should give us some significant price advantage versus what the private suppliers are doing for individual ratepayers. And the fact that they can come and go as they please is another thing that's very attractive about the CCA model, meaning you could sign up for 3 months of the CCA and then decide to leave in month 4, and there's no early termination provisions. And then the last thing that's really conducive, I think, to the educated shopper is that they don't have to sit back and worry about, geez, if I go on vacation or I'm down in Florida at my summer place for a few months or my winter place for a few months, and I come back and I've missed the re-enrollment period, that my rate's going to skyrocket because I'm in holdover. The consumer protection that we have there, the advantage we have there, is that as your consultants, we're going to have another contract waiting to go once the current one goes into expiration. So there is no gap period, if you will. And that's one thing that, talk to anybody that buys on their own. If they do a 6-month, a 9-month, a 12-month, that is always the concern that they missed the re-enrollment or the renewal period, and then they get hit with an out-of-contract rate, which is significantly higher than what they signed up for. And I think that's a reason why only about 20% of the market here in New Hampshire actually affirmatively goes out and finds that third-party supplier, because you do need to stay on top of it.
Quick question.
Yep.
When was deregulation put into effect in New Hampshire?
1999,
So, it's been over 20 years,
yes.
and only 20% maybe have caught on?
Yeah,
Do you see anything in the horizon that would raise that 20% to 50%?
CCAs.
So to follow up on his, those third parties, like you said, you go to the webpage and they're growing every day.
Yep.
And the rates do fluctuate, the terms, you really gotta understand it. Can some of these smaller third parties actually handle a large influx? I mean, both administratively and contract-wise, power-wise?
So, let's not go down that path. That's not pertinent to the conversation, I don't think, John.
Okay.
We're not talking about what the other companies can do. I'd like to focus it on Freedom Energy and Colonial Power.
Well, I think it's a follow-up to the question, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that what are we gonna do if there are other companies that offer a lower rate? What are our options?
Our options are different from what the consumer's options might be.
And keep in mind that the rate is not the only consideration.
I think that's true. I think you'll find that,
I
you
think
know.
that's right.
You might get a low rate, but they're gonna bow out
Right,
3 months later, so there's a lot of things involved.
okay.
Good, John, are you satisfied? Never? It's your comment. I want
I'll just leave my concern on the table. My concern is that I think the market's changing. If you particularly look at the website that I've cited there, the state's website, it does kind of address some of the things you talked about, perhaps not the what happens at the end of your contract.
Yep.
And that's relevant, I'm not dismissing that. But I think some of the other things these third-party guys are catching up on. There are several, if you look at that list, that will let you in and out of their program without a cost, without a fee, without penalty now, that will let you out. There's a few that will let you out whenever you want to be let out, for whatever reason. So I just think we have to be cognizant of the fact that I think we have a program that the whole town is going to be looking at, because it's perhaps the first thing of substance to flow out of the utility committee.
Yeah.
And we don't want to have a program where people are saying, this isn't any good, okay? This isn't, there's so much better out there than what we've got. And that's why I would almost suggest you have to look at those third-party numbers. And they seem to be available on a monthly basis, so, and I do recognize that they change every month. But I think you have to be, at least, we bring some advantage in that it's the town of Londonderry backing it, and it's an opt-out program.
Yep.
So you're gonna, rope in a bunch of people at one time. But I think you're vulnerable to these third-party folks and to folks jumping out of your program because you make it easy to do so.
So from that standpoint, any concerns about like the size of program participation? And again, we do have a lot of data from other states, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, Ohio, that have had these programs in place for a number of years and do have smaller migration rates, if you will, or opt-out rates. But even if we did have more seismic opt-outs versus the historical norms of around 10%, one thing that's a protection for the town is that whichever supplier that we choose to collectively, that the committee chooses to supply Londonderry CCA, is going to have to guarantee that program, that rate, regardless of fluctuation in participation, right? And so even when we're evaluating rates, we're going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 suppliers that we're taking a look at their contract terms, their rates. Contract terms aren't going to be much of an issue because we're really going to be dictating to them what we need in our program. But on the rate side, again, we are going to be buying for, upwards of maybe 50, 60, 70 million kilowatt hours, which is a significant portfolio advantage versus the individual homeowner. So I do think we will have some advantage versus the one-off rates that we're seeing. But again, if your concern is that we only get 60% instead of 90% adoption from those on standard offer, the supplier that we've contracted with has to perform their duty for the terms of the contract for whatever flows through past the opt-out period to them.
Okay.
And I would say that if we educate the Londonderry consumer through this process, and they decide to go elsewhere, I still think we've done our job. No offense, but,
Yeah, we're not salesmen for these.
no.
I mean, the best way to look at this is most of these people in town have only ever bought from Eversource. You're giving them another option, and if they stay with it, great. If they go somewhere else, you've still added another arrow to their quiver of selection.
We're good? Yep. Onward, Kelly? Right there. Under what specific circumstances will prices offered to residents vary? And who approves the variances?
Right, so so a couple examples that were on my mind. The contract that we typically work with, it's designed to focus on providing, a valuable option for residential customers, for small commercial customers. Large commercial customers in town have, for the last 20-plus years, had lots of options available to them. So in our normal contract terms, we have some protections to sort of discourage those large customers from hopping in and out of the program. If you sort of allow them to do that, and if they exercise that sort of free option, it can be detrimental to the other residents participating in the program. So that's what I had in mind in drafting it the way I did, in terms of having some the potential for some different prices for example, large commercial customers. So let me be a little more specific. So a large because there's a universal service standard part of the statute, you can't outright deny any business from seeking to join the program, but you can have, in order for them to opt into the program, they can come in, but it's at a market-based rate. It's not at the fixed rate of 9 cents that everyone else is enjoying. So that's, I think, is an acceptable way to address it, and that's what I had in mind in drafting it that way.
So that would not apply to any residential customer?
Correct. Residential customers, they get the program rate, whatever that might be. They have free option to come and go without penalty or charge.
So, I mean, the commercial sector, is kind of the flip-flop of the residential, where they're almost 90% seeking third-party options. Only 10% is with standard offer, and that's usually because they either have a high capacity tag in their portfolio or they're bad credit, which is why they haven't been taken on. So, this program does focus on kind of those rate classes, residential, small commercial, that have been kind of left behind in the competitive landscape for electricity choice.
Good.
Can I just ask one question? Does the number or the size of the customer affect the rates to the residential customer?
The size of the program?
Right.
Yeah.
So the more customers, the more commercial entities, is that going to affect the rates that people pay?
Right. So I mean, that's a consideration up to a point. So when you're talking with some very small towns, towns that might have 1,000 residents in them, they're at a bit of a disadvantage to Londonderry just because of their very small size. Londonderry is more than large enough to attract very competitive pricing from suppliers. So sort of the Walmart effect really is a bit of a myth, unless you're talking about really, the town of Florida and northern New Hampshire.
So if a few of your larger customers, the Walmarts, et cetera, they decide to bow out, would that affect the rate for the customers, for the residential customers?
So if I understand your question, I mean, Walmart, for example, is already under contract. I mean, those large commercial enterprises are out in the market. They're honestly not going to be paying attention to this.
Okay.
So this only goes out to those customers that are buying commodity from Eversource. So like a Walmart or a BAE or whoever the large user might be, they're already under a third-party supply contract, so they'd be ineligible for our opt-out notice, if you will.
Okay. Thanks.
You know, when it comes time to present this to the residents, the fact that all those larger commercial customers have moved away from Eversource all those years ago, 90%, just like,
Yeah.
might be convincing to the residential customer, saying now's your opportunity to do the same. That's
The
an
way I
interesting-
look at it is when you put all the residential customers together, you're now a big customer.
Yeah, very, very big customer, yes.
Okay? We're gonna play in that same field,
Right,
okay? I think that's how I look at it.
yeah.
We'll get the same advantage as Walmart.
Yes.
Moving on. Mike's comment is really regarding the last sentence of paragraph D, and discussions prior to the receipt of executable bids or following the receipt of executable bids. So I guess the question, saying it maybe a little bit differently, and I'll let you answer it, Stuart, is the ESA, under the parameters set forth, is that independent of the bids? I look at that sentence almost being independent of having the bids in hand or not having them in hand. I'm trying to understand what that last sentence really means.
Right, so what the sentence is attempting to convey is that because it's a commodity market and suppliers can only hold prices for a short period of time, it's proven to be very helpful if the town manager has been given the authority prior to the bids coming in to be able to execute a contract on behalf of the town. And typically, the town manager needs to be granted that authority from town council.
Yep.
It might be the same as how you treat the town of Londonderry's electricity contract, and Mike has signing authority for that, for like your campus accounts, if you think about it that way. The police station, the high school are under contract, and I believe, Mike, as Kevin did prior to him, signs those contracts and has that authority from the town council.
So Mike has contract signing authority, obviously, especially for
Yeah.
something this large. But I still don't, I'm still getting lost in what that language or that sentence means. Is it just meaning the fact that Mike has authority to sign the contract?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And as Stuart said,
That's all
we've
I'm
got
saying.
we've got a finite window. So when commodity prices come out, we might get those prices for a bid at 11:30 in the morning, and we'll have until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon to lock in our selected vendor for that day, sign the contract, have them sign it, and then they go out and they purchase the hedge. That's why we recommend kind of going with a system where one person is
Yep.
is your designee. So
So I believe he is the designee, but so would he be signing a contract like on a monthly basis or?
no.
quarterly
So
basis?
typically we're going to do 12 months or longer. So
Okay.
But when you lock in the price with the supplier, that sounds like it's a very rapid process. How long will Mike have to get to sign?
So typically we would set up a meeting with Mike in advance and say, hey, Mike, we're going to be collecting bids on Wednesday. So can you meet at noon? Yes. Okay. So we've received bids at 11. We go meet with Mike at 12, talk with him, show him sort of everything received, the options. And actually, I should sort of back up. I mean, usually what the process that works well for us is a week prior to that, we've obtained what's called indicative pricing from suppliers. So it's a trial run, if you will. So that way, Mike has a sense of sort of where the market is, what the product offerings are. And so he's perhaps already formulated a thought onto if a week from that time, if prices come in sort of at the same levels, and perhaps he's had a conversation with council members or whatnot, and so he's decided, okay, prices come in, they're similar to last time, I liked this product, I'm ready to sign.
Okay, so he gets heads up about a week
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly.
just
so he
thinking of
he
his
doesn't get 4 hours.
schedule. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, excellent question, yeah, it is, right.
Okay.
Hit him
Respond in 4
cold.
hours. I can test to that.
no, yeah, that'd be almost impossible.
There was some, we were just talking about section D here, there was a comment or two above that in B. At least on my draft there was.
Oh. We have a red bar against B, but no comment.
There was stuff deleted, it looks like. You click on the bar.
Would you like a printout?
Oh,
It expands it on.
no, so click, do you see the red bar, Kelly, in the left-hand margin?
Interesting.
No, it's just, yeah, we got it. Thank you.
What, bar?
So scroll to the left.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't all the way over.
Yep,
There we go.
yep.
Magic.
There we go.
Maybe just take that down a notch in the zoom and you can get the whole page. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
So, so Mr. Spell's comment was in seeking to correct the language, saying that the town meeting are effectively the voters or the governing body in the case of Londonderry. And so I guess, obviously we want to get this language right. Is it the case, and I ask this in context of whether or not this plan needs to go to town meeting or not. My understanding was that town council has the requisite authority to move forward, that you don't have to go to town meeting.
That's my current understanding as well.
Right, so, in context of what the commission needs to understand, I think that's kind of what we need to convey.
I guess with that explanation, I'm okay with the language.
The original language?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it does start out with A, if I remember right, as the level 1 customer. Level 2 is the town council, yeah, okay. They sign lots of things.
Okay.
Right, Kelly?
They would have the authority in this instance. They can sign off.
Yep.
Next.
Next. Okay, we talked through D, we're on E.
Yes, I think in E, which we talked about right at the top of our meeting, so I think the way we're going to address this, as we discussed, we're going to just convey that the town has a consultant. That consultant is sort of a,
Yeah, we'll just use consultant as the term,
yeah.
Yep, okay.
and then give you the breakdown for the appendix in terms of responsibilities.
Okay, and that works for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. E, all requirements power supply.
Yeah, which is a sort of an industry term, so what I propose to do is just to add a footnote describing what that is.
Paul, I guess I'd look for your expertise here.
I'm fine with it.
Okay,
It isn't an industry term.
okay. I'm good with adding the footnote. I think that adding that level of detail is appropriate under this question. Good, next.
Yeah, so in this paragraph that starts at a later time, Mr. Speltz suggested changing that to within working days. This is actually a statutory requirement, and so in my comment, I just quoted from the statute, it needs to be within 15 days.
So with that said, it's calendar days and not working days.
Correct, yeah.
Just to make sure that the folks reviewing this, it just matches the terminology and the timelines in the statute.
Yep, okay, that, which is fine. No, Mike and I both go back to an industry where it mattered.
Yep.
If it was calendar days or working days, you know,
Sure.
because it is different, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be assumed as calendar days.
Okay.
Does it make sense just to put 15
Yes.
calendar days?
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
That's
I'd
fine.
like to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why, are there any more business days? I thought we worked every day.
Some of us don't work any days.
Oh, I don't wanna hear about it.
We-
Even some of us work nights, right, Kelly?
Always.
Were you happy you signed up for this?
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Would you like me to keep going?
I think we're down to paragraph A. There were a couple of Stewart comments.
Yeah,
Page 9.
in another spot in the document, Jim has suggested that we define energy services agreement, so I thought that was a good idea. So I defined it here in this first sentence, and then this acronym ESA I've carried throughout the document.
Okay.
This adds clarity.
I think that's good to have there. The next comment I show is on page 10. That's just a formatting comment, nothing on content.
No, so no, there's all that red line I added, and I apologize, I didn't include a comment explaining why this is here. This was, oh, I know, further down in the document, again, the suggestion was made to add some explanation here around the opt-out process, and I thought that was a good suggestion. So that's what this does.
Is the opt-out notice a standard language notice, or is it something that you would create from town to town? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so we've sort of, over many years, we've sort of established a standard language that, that we've done in other states, but it'll work quite well here in New Hampshire. So that's what we would propose to use. It doesn't mean that the town can't weigh in, or this committee can't weigh in and make tweaks and so forth.
Sure.
But it's kind of been time-tested across a lot of different communities.
I'm curious how you can tell, there's a, it says that you can choose clean power, or how do you know that you're getting clean power? Or you just know that,
The blue electrons are clean, and the red electrons are...
the green ones are clean.
I don't think that I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great discussion that we could spend a lot of time on. I don't know if you want to do that? Okay.
I think it might be beneficial at some point in time, but I'd like to get through this first. Because I think that's a very good question that people will be asking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure.
Because if you're gonna
Absolutely.
pay more for green.
Right, you wanna know what you're
how do
getting.
you know you're
Exactly.
getting it,
Yeah.
right?
While we're on, Mr. Chairman, the opt-out, are there existing documents or communications that you have from your experiences in other states of what you send out to the residences, or have us send out, that we can see, or maybe this committee's already seen?
Haven't seen it, but I think,
Haven't seen them.
Yeah, I'd be happy to provide sample opt-out notices or other documents. One of the requests from Mr. Speltz was a sample of the quarterly report that we provide to a lot of our municipal clients elsewhere. And so I forwarded that to Mr. Wiles, but I can certainly provide a sample opt-out notice too.
yeah, and when we get to that point, I think we'll want to weigh in on the language to make sure that we understand it
Yeah.
and concur with it, so, before it goes out, but, yeah.
Lyle, or, is this any different than the letters we got about 2 or 3 years ago when they first started offering? And individual residents got these letters that said, you have an alternative now, and then it had all the Ts and Cs. Is it similar to that, or is this gonna be totally different?
Probably a little different.
I'm assuming it's different because the other one was not, I don't want to say sanctioned by the town, but it was not, it was geared toward the individual consumer.
Okay.
Is there a time constraint?
If-
And these opt-outs at 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days, but, you know, again, because the program allows freedom of movement for the customer to come back and forth, if you miss the opt-out period and then notice on your next Eversource bill that you're with Londonderry CCA, you'd have the ability to call us, call the town, call Eversource, and have your account replaced back to standard offer if you'd like.
Is there gonna be discussion on the bill where, you know, if you wanna go back to Eversource, go to this website, blah, blah, blah? Or is that,
No, the Eversource doesn't accommodate that, so there's nothing directly on Eversource's bill for that.
okay, got it.
Yeah, so you'd see, the only evidence that you'd have there would be, let's say we select Constellation as our vendor for the CCA. It would say energy services rate, you know, provided by, and it would have Constellation's information. So the customer would have contact information on the bill to call Constellation, but it wouldn't expressly say Londonderry CCA, unfortunately.
And that's kind of the purpose of the two community outreach meetings that we're going to have, and certainly, you know, bring in Londonderry Times with articles in Londonderry Times and to get the word out.
It'll be on the website as well.
Yep.
So there'll be information that customers can go look at.
Yep, and I'm hoping, or I'm certainly planning on having it on our website as well, and having the town advertise everything that's going on and be above board that way as well.
And just 2 meetings? That's all you're
That's
planning?
what's statutory.
Okay.
And again, if you have a Londonderry Access Television, you know, we'd be happy to make an informational, you know, video to be posted there and broadcast to residents, you know, through that means. We do that in other communities, so.
Okay, moving on.
But there's no way to go to the Public Utilities Commission folks and say, hey, we understand why Eversource doesn't want us to put this on the bill. But is there any way we can put a notice in the Eversource bill? I mean,
Unfortunately, you know, just Eversource has always been kind of resistant to any changes in their billing system. It's an archaic system, and it seems like it would be really, really easy. And I don't want to cast them as always being the bad guy. It's just those changes on their billing system would be very difficult and costly for them to accommodate additional content. And that's not to say it's always going to stay that way. And I think, you know, you're not alone in your desire to see some sort of an update on the bill that's easy for the customer to reference. So I do think that will be forthcoming at some point. I just don't think it's going to be in time for the launch of our initial program.
okay. I think we have a question from the audience.
Want to take a question from the audience?
Sure. Sure, for Doug. Doug, why don't you come up?
I will. I just want to comment on this last comment.
Yep.
Yes, Doug Thomas, 143 Mammoth Road. You are correct. I'll give you an example of wanting to put something on an Eversource bill. I had a bill last year that barely passed, and it was quite a hassle because all I wanted to do was to put down a dollar figure for how much you pay for the RPS program at the end of the year on a bill. And we heard testimony that exactly correct. Because of Eversource's old system, to put anything other than that little thing on there would have cost them money. We wanted to put some words on the bill to explain certain things or direct them to certain areas. And they were willing to do it, but it was going to cost about $1 million. And we did not want to put that money would have been passed on to all of the ratepayers within the Eversource's territory, and we didn't want to put that burden on people. So to justify what you were saying, that is a problem we have with their system. It's not easy just to put a few words on there. We tried, barely got what I wanted done, but I can vouch for that. I'm not saying that they can't ever do it. I'm just saying that with their current system, it would cost them to change over to allow something added on there, and they would pass that cost on to the ratepayers. That's where we stand on that.
Doug, just before you sit down, would you just mind telling everybody what your role is up in Concord and the committees you're
I'm the vice chair of the Science, Tech, and Energy Committee.
and
in
representative
Concord, so-
representing Londonderry up in Concord.
Londonderry has been represented on the Science, Tech, and Energy Committee for a lot of years. Bob was the chair for many years before I even got on there. He recently passed away, but I think Londonderry has been pretty fortunate to have someone from Londonderry to be on that energy committee. So that's how come we have a lot of depth of knowledge on that.
Excellent. Thank you for your insight.
Well, I'm just confused. Because to type a few extra words on a bill that goes out to everyone, why would that cost them $1 million? I mean.
I suggest we move forward, and I'd be happy to
Sorry,
explain
you
after.
can explain,
Okay,
okay.
perfect. Yeah,
Great.
excellent.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, let's have a sidebar on that. after.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, great. Moving on, paragraph D, I think we've addressed with the ESA. So we're getting to 7A, operations program management. And I believe your sample reports.
Yeah, so, right, I forwarded the sample quarterly report. Yep.
And so Mike's comment also was adding that as an appendix to the plan. How often do those reports get published and where do they get published to?
So this is a report that we would provide to the town. It isn't something that goes to the commission, for example. This is for the town's benefit, with, the town manager and/or committee, however we're directed to circulate that on a quarterly basis.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna forward this on, or Mike has a copy of it, obviously, but I'm not as interested in putting it as an appendix to the plan. I hope the plan's not gonna be a living document. I hope we sign it and it's done. And then anything with data in it is obsolete the next day, so that's why I don't like putting data like this in the plan. So, if everybody's okay with that, I'll send this to Mike to make sure I think the report looks good, but I'll get his input on the report. And not adding it as an appendix to the plan.
And that could go on the town website every month.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Okay. Moving on. Down to page 12. And this is dealing with the protection of consumer information.
Yes, so Mike was asking about either Freedom or Colonial, both providing cybersecurity insurance policy. We, at Colonial, this was something, honestly, is a work in progress. We happen to be working on it. So once we get that in place, I believe we've applied. There were some steps we needed to do to sort of get our systems up to par before we could apply for the insurance riders. But I understand that we've applied for the insurance, and I'll loop back to the committee once we have that in place and provide documentation around that.
Do you think you'll have that in time for a rollout here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think we'd want to have that in place before we roll it out here, just given the state of consumer information and everything else going on these days, so.
And I think when folks are saying roll out, prior to the program launching,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I think that gives us Colonial plenty of time to get that in place.
And moving on to D on page 14.
Yeah, this section has to do with how frequently might the town be checking in with Eversource in terms of sort of new accounts that have come on to default service, whether people moving in or so forth. And so the original language said, Colonial would periodically request that information from Eversource. Mike suggested, well, let's put in there that we're going to do it on a monthly basis. The rules that the PUC approved limit the frequency that towns can seek this information to no more frequently than every 6 months. So that's, we wouldn't be able to do it monthly.
So there may be some opportunity there, John, thinking out loud. The Solid Waste Committee came up with a process for letting new people, or people moving into the town, giving them the rules and regulations regarding recycling and solid waste handling, so, and there are different ways of getting around that. We'd be doing that on our own if we did that. You know, when we do that through the assessing database. So as somebody new moves into town, they get added to the assessor's database. They gave the Solid Waste Committee a monthly monthly report of the new people moving into town. And we send a mailing out to them, you know, independently of somebody like FEL doing it, so.
Oh, good.
That may be an option down the road, but I think the 6 months, I understand the 6 months, I think that's fine.
And I would just suggest sticking with the phrase periodically. It just maintains flexibility for the town if for some reason you don't want to do it every 6 months.
Those new residents moving into town after launch would automatically be put on the program regardless, right?
No. So a new resident moving into town, initially they start receiving default service from Eversource. So, like Mr. Weil said, I mean, there's going to be mechanisms the town is doing to try to inform people of the program, but they wouldn't get mailed to sort of through an opt-out process until every 6 months or longer. So there's no.
So worst case is a new resident would be paying Eversource for 6 months.
Yeah. And then they
Or
get the.
less until the next 6 month increment.
But as you mentioned, so for instance, if you did communicate with them through that mailing process through the assessor's office, they'd have an opportunity to go and opt in prior to the 6 months, but
Yep.
we wouldn't be able to put them into an opt-out format until we had that 6 month data from Eversource.
And they would opt in at the same cost as the existing.
At the same rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, yeah, we have some good data on that we get monthly.
Okay.
It's not as straightforward as you might think.
Maybe decades in business.
And so the next,
Right, so
yeah,
this.
so,
Yeah, so this is a good suggestion to describe how the switches are accomplished. And so I added that language up in section 6B. So that may have been the long paragraph that you saw earlier. I'm just going up to 6B. Yeah, that was that long paragraph that I forgot to put a comment next to. It was in response to this suggestion.
excuse me, I just scroll back real quick. And this kind of goes, I think this comment goes back to what we were talking about with the table saying what CPG does, what FEL does, and probably a third column for what the town is responsible for as well. And just spell it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Onward. I'm down in paragraph for section 10.
Yeah, so, let's see. Yeah, in his comment, he was saying, can we specify how switches will be accomplished? So I added the sentence that consumers will be able to switch, online to the program website or by calling the town's consultant.
Okay. You're good at that? Moving on. Rights and responsibilities.
Yeah, so up higher in the document, I clarified the definition for eligible consumer and then carried that down throughout the document. So that's a good clarification. In Mike suggested explaining how the program participation could affect recs, and they don't. So if a net metering consumer decides to participate in this program, the certificates that are generated through their own rec meter socket still continue. They're not disrupted by their participation in this program.
It's the exports that we're concerned with for the net metering customers. So if you're getting monetary value for sending energy back to the grid, that could be disrupted by your enrollment in this program.
Okay.
Until a later date, right?
Huh?
Until a later date
Right.
to work this out.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be a key point that we have to let everybody know about, because I see
Definitely.
a lot of solar,
Yeah, there's a
a
big
lot of
push
solar
for,
being installed.
yeah.
And based on your experience, how many, you mentioned 7,000 customers in Londonderry?
In terms of actual ratepayers,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe 8,000. Yeah.
How, based on your experience, how many would be in this situation?
I mean, south of 1%.
Right.
You know, that's actually exporting. You know, we have seen this come up a few times so far. It's Nashua launched their program in a couple other towns recently, and they actually caught some hydro dams in their opt-out period. Hydro dams getting the mail at some old wheelhouse that no one had, mans. And so they got brought into the program, and they lost their proceeds for 2.5 months before someone finally found out. But it looks like Eversource is accommodating those back payments. But it's just a situation we want to avoid, because you're not getting at that time 20 cents a kilowatt hour for your production. So it's pretty large financial hit. So.
Yeah.
So can I just clarify that if a customer has solar
Yes.
and it's going back on the grid in the summertime, but that's coming back to them in the wintertime, for example, and they're not producing more than they actually utilize, then it won't really be affected by this.
No. So if you're getting any monetary value for your exports at any time during the year, those periods will be impacted. So, like in your winter months, you're consuming more than you're producing, so that's not an issue. But for instance, in the summer months, if you're producing more than you're consuming, those would be periods in which you would get the standard offer rate back to you as a credit for your overproduction. That wouldn't
Okay.
happen if
Okay.
you're in this program, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've heard a couple of folks talk about, folks in that situation, it requires active management, but you come in and out of the program.
Right.
You come into the program in the winter, depart the program in the summer.
Sure.
Just got to pay attention, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would not receive the credits.
If you're enrolled with any third-party suppliers, whether with Londonderry CCA or whether you select a vendor off the PUC website, if you're not on Eversource's standard offer, you will not get paid for your exports.
Even though they're getting it.
Even though they're getting it, yeah. And again, I don't want to paint Eversource as a boogeyman in this instance. So when you're with like Constellation, for instance, as your third-party supplier instead of Eversource, Constellation's the one that's actually benefiting from that load going back into their load asset ISO New England, not Eversource. So Eversource in that instance isn't making any money. So.
Yeah, but just to clarify, not to make Constellation the bad guy. So this is the detail I think not enough people understand, is that any of the competitive suppliers are not giving the credits because they're not in a position to give you the credits. So when that extra kilowatt hours is going into the network, Eversource doesn't credit the supplier. The Eversource retains that power. So Constellation, in this example, can't monetize that for you because they don't get the kilowatt hour generation.
It's the network.
It gets retained by Eversource and in some way distributed to all its customers.
This is very complicated.
I know it.
There goes my geothermal plant.
So we're on the last paragraph of 13. Mike was asking about how the town might access its own information to identify these customers. My understanding, and this is sort of the highlighted yellow section, is a note to myself. My understanding is that Eversource, with some of the other communities that have already launched, are identifying information in the data that it's providing to towns and cities. So my understanding is we won't have an issue of identifying who those customers are. It's not a requirement that Eversource provide that information per the rules, but I think this has been such a sensitive issue, they are providing it sort of voluntarily.
Okay.
So they're telling you who the net metering customers are,
Correct.
and are they telling you who the current third-party customers are in town?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a list of which accounts are with standard offer and which ones are basically not on standard offer, so with other products.
Okay. And with your rollout, will you be communicating at all with the third-party folks?
With the folks that are on third-party supply?
Yeah.
So there's a provision in the law which I believe mandates that you have to. Something we have to iron out because I think it causes more confusion if you're sending opt-out notices to one group and then opt-in notices to another group. So it's something we need to investigate because I think the additional mailing to customers that are with third-party supply companies is going to cause confusion and headaches for everybody involved. But it might be a mandate that we have to follow anyway. So.
Not to beat a dead horse, but if your rates are better, you might bring us over, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be in a good position. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what we're able to do versus the private market. But yeah, if someone's with a Direct Energy or whoever that and they have terms where they can leave before the end of the contract and they see that Londonderry CCA is better, then yeah, they might opt to make that move. I think you're going to find, because of this provision, there's going to be a lot of people that are in third-party supply contracts. They're going to freak out that they're going to be pulled into this and they're going to suffer early termination fees, especially the businesses. That's my main concern.
Okay. I think that's the last of the comments.
Yep.
So I just took a couple of notes. I'd like to see that table. Okay. If you could put together that table on who's responsible for what, and take a shot at it for what your expectation for the town to do as well.
Yep.
And then I was gonna touch base with Mike with the report and make sure that he's okay with the report and not having it as a table or an appendix in the plan.
Yeah.
Were there any other final thoughts? This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to just come to an agreement, and then just so you know, my next thought would be to get the updated document, get it into Kelly's hands or Mike's hands, and get it submitted for legal review while we just do our final sweep on it at that point in time, and then we'll come back with our final response back to you, and then we'll see about submitting it to the PUC.
Okay.
If that works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
we'll
on the,
all get that plan too. We'll all get
Yep.
it. Okay.
so just based on process, so before it gets submitted to the PUC, you have to have those two hearings.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you
Okay.
about as well, is
Right.
what are the next steps and what do we have to do and what are our next steps?
What's our timeline, yes.
Yep.
Right. So as you described, you're going to have the town council, I think, look at this before you go out to hearings.
Yeah.
Yep. So after you've got that green light from them, then you can schedule 2 public hearings, and you would utilize sort of the normal practice that the town undertakes in scheduling hearings including distance apart from the 2 hearings, whatever is the proper practice. And then accept any comments or feedback on the plan from residents and businesses. If you want to incorporate any tweaks to the plan, that's your prerogative. So anyway, then final tweaks typically go back to the council,
Yep.
get their okay to then file it with the commission. The turnaround for us to file with the commission is really fast, once it's got final green light from the council.
Okay. What is the expectation from the PUC? What type of turnaround time do you expect from them?
2 months. Statute requires them to turn it around in 2 months.
And the public hearings, I guess maybe this goes to Kelly as well. The public hearings, would you expect them to be held with the town council here at a town council meeting?
I think that would be most appropriate. We can certainly accommodate that.
Yep.
Now, there's no limit, say we have two public hearings and they're packed, and people ask for a third or fourth public hearing, there's nothing restricting that.
Correct, yeah, you're not.
It's just a minimum.
Yeah, minimum of 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do we need a motion for anything? Or are we all set?
I don't think we need a motion. If we're all good with the comments, I think we'll wait and we'll get the updated document from Stuart.
Good.
And we'll move forward from there. And I'm just thinking out loud again, the timing for the public hearings, I think once we have the document, we've given it our blessing. I think that's when we schedule the public hearings. And we'll talk to you and Mike and Mr. Farrell and see what that looks like.
Yes, I mean, we're heading into budget season, so
Yep.
the meetings are more frequent, of course, but we
Yep.
can certainly coordinate the timing of the noticing and the hearings.
Okay, good. So this is just a wild ass, it's a swag. If everything goes according to the way you see it going, when would we be sending out the notices that this project is happening? And this will be the go-live date? April, June, next year?
I'd say, I mean, beginning Q2 next year, I think is it depends on how quickly we get the public hearings done. I think the PUC process is fairly automatic. I mean,
Yep.
they've got the 60 days and they've kind of taken their full 60 days on the plans. So I wouldn't expect it sooner than that, so.
Okay. So we're gonna miss the next winter rate hike from Eversource, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that we won't see escalation that we saw last winter, just based upon, where numbers are. I think it's gonna go up from where it is right now at 12.74.
Yep.
But my guess right now is maybe somewhere 14-15 cents a kilowatt hour, so. But if we have a cold winter, then we will be in time for what I would expect would be an escalation in the August rate cycle, so.
Okay.
We've had a run of very warm winters lately, and at some point, old man winter is gonna show up.
Okay. So, when do you think we can see the document?
Yeah, I think by end of week, I think.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Good. Good. Any other questions?
Nice
That's
to see you,
excellent.
nice to see you guys again.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for having
No,
us.
excellent dialogue. So, like I say, we're here to question you to make sure that the citizens get what they need. So that's
Sure.
our job. And but I think we're all happy to see this project moving forward. So I think it's going to be great for the community.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And moving on, administrative board committee work, approval of minutes for August and September. I'll take a motion for approval. Everybody should have the minutes. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to read the minutes, and we'll do the approvals separately. So I'd like a motion to approve the minutes for August.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Everybody in favor of the August minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Abstain.
Okay, August minutes are approved. September minutes. I'll
Quick
take a-
question.
Sure.
Do you take that and undo the draft on it and send it on, or how does?
You send that, you will send that to Kirsten, and she
Okay.
will update the
Thank you.
website with the approved minutes.
Thank you.
So, And we'll have just a quick chat in a minute about the process for minutes. But let's do September minutes. Take a motion for approval of September minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Everybody in favor of the September minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion's, minutes are approved. So we did have a brief discussion via email regarding minutes and comments to draft minutes and things like that. And as of these minutes, everything's gonna go through John. So John will send out the draft meeting minutes. Any comments, send them directly back into John. We'll vote on them at the next meeting, and John will submit them to Kirsten, our administrative assistant for our committee, and she'll get them updated on the website.
Thank you.
So,
Clarifying not to John directly and not you.
correct.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Yes, thank
When
you, John.
When somebody sends me a comment, like I spelled John's name wrong, I'll send out, I'll identify it as draft 2, and I'll put the changes in it, and then people are kept updated, so when we get to the meeting, everybody's there. Thank you.
And I've had some discussions with Mike regarding the content of minutes, and we don't have to have verbatim minutes by any means, because we do have, the meetings are all recorded, so, you know, if you do get, when you do get John's draft, don't feel like, you know, if you have to get into the fine details,
Minutia.
adding the fine details of the discussion. So really, it's just to give a high-level view for what we've accomplished during the course of the meeting.
Presentation was done, discussion with all members of the board.
Yep.
Yep,
Member for the public.
Yep.
Agreed to next steps.
Yep.
Next thing.
yeah, exactly. So-
Yep.
Okay, discussions with staff. Kelly, anything happening that we need to know about in your mind?
Nothing in particular this evening for you.
Okay, so I've had some discussions with Mike regarding the High Range Road water main and the extension of that. And he's been working with the state, trying to work in their grant program to see if we can get the money to upgrade that line from an 8-inch line to a 12-inch line or a 16-inch line, like we had heard from Pennachuck. And so right now, there's just the timing in terms of the grant process and time in terms of DES.
The grant has
working.
not been submitted yet?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
With DES, I don't know how much the whole Saint-Gobain situation is weighing into what's going on as well.
Well, I know a little bit about that. The Saint-Gobain, well, I go back to the consent decree. Londonderry really isn't covered in that consent decree other than through DES. So all of the houses that were identified in Londonderry are being dealt with DES, not through the courts. So it's not enforceable with Saint-Gobain through the courts. And the Saint-Gobain supposedly is right now working with Pennachuck, looking at getting costs together for what it would cost them to do that. But they totally have the option of either doing the pipeline or putting point of view systems in the houses. There's no, you know, it's totally up to Saint-Gobain what they decide to do. So that's as far as,
That's unfortunate. but
yeah.
Still a lot up in the air with
Yeah,
that.
there's a tremendous amount up in the air, so I don't know how exactly this grant is gonna work if Saint-Gobain isn't working, you know, hopefully in conjunction with DES. They say it's very important to them, they say that they're in communication with them on a weekly basis, that they're pushing them, but whatever, if Saint-Gobain decides, yes, it's a densely populated area and we believe putting in the pipeline is a good idea, then what we're looking for in that grant is, that's also a good idea.
Yep.
But if, you know, if they're not doing that, then we're kind of going after a grant that I don't I don't know.
I don't
Maybe.
want to say too much, but there's a lot of this is
Yep.
out of our hands, right, Ron?
Yep.
It's basically,
Right.
and I feel bad because if Sam Cobain says it is gonna be a point of use thing, well, there's nothing in it that says maintenance. That's why I asked the question in the last meeting, what is the maintenance cost of this thing?
Yeah, just for clarification, it's not point of use, it's point of entry, so they're POET systems.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it has to
I'm
go
sorry.
on, just so you know, there's just two differences.
Okay,
Okay.
point of
Just- So
entry.
it's gonna go where your water comes into your house.
Right.
And there is some agreement with DES of maintenance for a certain period of time, isn't
Yeah.
there?
There is.
Yeah, there
3
is,
years?
okay.
It's only like 3 years. I think
Yeah.
it was 3 years.
It's not,
3
it's
years.
not.
I'm
full.
trying to get a hard down answer, but I haven't gotten one yet.
That's not specified in the consent decree.
Yeah, only the consent.
The consent decree doesn't involve us at all. We
Well,
weren't,
it
we
has
weren't a
to-
party
it has
to that.
Well, no, by us. Who's us? You mean
Londonderry.
the town council?
London residents.
Londonderry.
But there are some residents within the consent decree line boundary.
But that is only through DES. It wasn't outlined in the consent decree in terms of what the court could order. I'll talk to you about it after.
Ron, do you get involved with DES on this? For
I do.
Suggestions and stuff like that? If it falls through, my suggestion, I'm making this quick, let the consumer make the option of taking the money for a whatever it is, system, and instead pay to have a hookup for water. I don't know, maybe there's a way to do that, I don't know.
There, currently, if there's a hookup in your area, you can get
Yeah.
$10,000.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right, that's
So-
already there.
But
Oh,
the
it
issue
is?
is,
Yes.
what she's talking about is on High Range Road,
There isn't.
there's no hookup near you. So they could easily say, we're gonna put POETs instead.
Right.
So, but from what I understand, I did get an answer to a question that you guys asked me earlier. They're planning on closing on June of 2024. That's what I'm being told. And as of right now, DES believes that they're gonna keep their commitment. That's what I'm hearing from my contact at DES, is that they are gonna keep their commitment. Now, that's
That's all we have.
no guarantee, but
Right.
they are very hopeful that they're gonna keep their commitment.
That's right.
That's what they,
I mean, they
their
have
understanding.
to, right? I mean, they're a part of the consent decree, so if they don't, then the state can go after them.
Right, but the part that Martha's talking about is they can do
Right,
POETs rather. They can say, we're gonna do POETs for everybody on High Range and no water line.
See you later.
But DES believes that they're gonna keep their commitment and do that.
For High Range.
And the application deadline is October 13th, just so everyone knows. For the, and Weston and Sampson, I believe, is doing our application.
That's correct.
Yep,
That's
so-
right.
So lots more to come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots more to come.
So who is DES negotiating with? They're still working with the St. Gobain folks who are here, or are they working with another office, or
They're,
a national office, international office of St. Gobain? Who's DES working with?
Post office box
That's,
Yeah, Alaska, yeah.
they're headquartered in Ohio,
Yeah.
this particular
Subsidiary.
subsidiary, and that's who they're dealing with,
It's the Ohio office.
the headquarters of St. Gobain Performance Plastics. Is that correct?
yes, that is correct, but I'm not sure who the contact is. I'd have to find that out. I could get back to you with that information, who they're specifically speaking about.
Oh,
That I don't know.
I think I might have that on
Okay.
a document that I got from
Okay.
DES.
I just don't have a contact name for you, but I can get one for you.
Good to know.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee discussions. So, we'll start with the Energy Subcommittee. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and chime in. We walked through the plan, and I think it was excellent exercise, and I think we came up with some good additions and some good clarifications to the plan, so I think that's a great exercise. The other thing I wanted to mention to everybody is, I was approached by Bob Slater, who's the chairman of the school board, about working with the school system in terms of putting a solar array over the parking lots at various schools. So that's something that I think would be a great partnership. There's not a lot of partnerships between the town side and the school side, and I think this would be a great opportunity to do something with them. So,
Like the the ones that go up and over the cars?
yep.
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 Good idea, huh? It helps with the snow plowing, keeps it dry, makes energy. It's big in California. My
Have
grandkids
they
in
looked at
California.
putting it on the roof?
So they always get into the snow load discussions
yeah,
with
yeah,
roofs.
Yep.
And I don't think the roofs are an option with the schools at this point in time. But just a point of information, I did go down to Walden Pond in Massachusetts back in the summertime, and they have installations there in the parking lots. So, you know, if you ever want to see them, they are becoming more and more popular.
And Lynn, didn't you tell us that they are also over at Stonyfield?
I had heard that they were, I went over there today, I did not see any.
Oh, you didn't see any? Okay. I
So
haven't gotten-
it may be something they're looking at. I don't know if Kelly, if we have a contact in Stonyfield that we can ask about, or I can even.
I can certainly get you a contact.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, just to ask them what their plan, if they have plans, just to kind of give an idea on what they see as the pitfalls or the benefits of doing a project like that. But I think it's a great opportunity
I
to
think
partner
it
with the schools.
sounds great, great.
So at a later date, I'll touch base with Bob. At a later date, we'll probably have a chance to talk to the school board about our committee and what we want to do and going forward. Anything else from energy? Anything on, from the water subcommittee?
I think we've pretty much covered water just then.
Okay.
Did I say something?
He's back.
Whoa,
Hey,
how long have you been there?
Sorry I'm late.
He just came in,
Just came in.
Okay.
just came in.
You actually have a name tag here, I believe.
Yeah,
We were
that's right.
expecting you.
I bumped you.
Sorry, a friend of mine had to rush to the hospital, and so one thing and another. So, are we discussing water?
We're discussing the water subcommittee and the activities since our last meeting.
Well, I have some thoughts in that regard. I think there's a lot of information that's available from the state and other organizations that we perhaps should take advantage of. I mean, we talk about trying to educate the general public, but where are we at with that? Do we have a Facebook page, or what do we have at this point, as far as getting the word out to the general public?
We do have a Facebook page, and everybody who I could find on Facebook that's on the utility committee, I've sent invitations to. And you can just search Londonderry Utility Committee on Facebook, and it's easy to pop up.
Yeah, but what I've seen on there does, go ahead.
So to answer your question, yes, we have a Facebook page. And I think we've had one news article we put on there. We, as a committee, you know, I don't feel I have the right to just start throwing stuff up there. And I haven't received guidance from this group to say, put that on and then put that on. If I want to just start throwing stuff up, I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, I'll ask the question, have you received any content from anybody?
No,
Yeah,
no one
so-
sent me an
so-
email and said,
so-
hey, Jeff, put this up.
So I think that's the takeaway, I think, on the Facebook page is, let's get some content out there, let's start creating some content.
Yeah.
And-
If you have
Well, we,
something-
we
And
did
how
have
do
some
you-
content. We had the New York Times piece on 3M and DuPont. the
Yeah, we
suit.
might have one or two things
That-
on there,
yeah.
but it's not.
I did not
it's-
see that on there. I did not see
It's
that
not
on there.
robust.
Okay.
Pardon me?
It's not robust.
Okay,
Oh.
so we tried to get together and we couldn't all agree. I think in the
Right.
next week or two, could we all get together and come up with a plan?
Absolutely.
I
Right.
think it's a great
I've been
idea.
out of town.
yeah. Okay.
Right.
Either did I.
I think it's really important that any subcommittee, between our monthly meetings, get together, whether it's just two people, and have discussion as to what our thoughts are and what we can do.
Right, so
I
I think we should
agree
get
with
together,
that.
we should get together the subcommittee,
And-
let's
yeah.
document what we have, and let's
Yeah.
come with a plan for the next meeting, because it's, you know, I didn't want to blow off my 50th anniversary, so.
I think, yeah, they were both traveling, both of these guys, so,
So let's say sometime
What's that?
so as, so as a water utility committee, and the week after next, we can get together, we can send emails through the,
Yes.
Through the
through the town
town
email.
email.
I will take an action to send emails to the water committee
Okay.
to try to schedule something at the library, and then we can notice it correctly.
Since there's more than 3, do we have to
Yeah.
notify?
We have to
Yeah,
notice
he's gonna
it.
do that.
you.
Yeah, I will take the
Okay.
action to notice it, and I'll work for it.
And,
Okay,
and on the
so-
face, could you send me the Facebook thing? I didn't see.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. I've been looking for it.
It's just
It's, I know it's bare, but this is.
Londonderry Utility Committee.
And I
Oh, that's
stole,
it.
But Ray,
Okay.
I stole graphics from the town of Londonderry, so.
oh, no, you borrowed them.
I'm sorry, yes.
You reused them.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't get the usage fee yet?
You're part of the town.
Oh,
You
yeah,
just
I'm sorry, I
used it. You're
forgot.
part of the town.
The town used the town's graphics.
Public information.
There you go.
I'll take responsibility, I'll coordinate with Lynn, and you'll get an email, or you'll get contacted in the next.
I think
48
what,
hours.
the point I'm trying to make is that, the discussions are really important, right?
Yeah, I don't think
Absolutely.
that
Okay,
anybody
so,
has any
you know,
question
so we
about-
meet monthly, sorry I was late. And we have discussions and, which is good, it's good. Unfortunately, I missed most of it. But, yeah. Getting the word out to the general public in Londonderry,
Yep.
you know, and, with all due respect, what's in the New York Times, that's important, but, how many people from Londonderry even understands the magnitude of that?
Well, I don't think it's that hard to understand, Ray, really. I mean, when 3M is being sued for $10 billion because of PFAS, and DuPont is being sued by towns and communities. So I think people understand that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the concept, but what effect is that going to have on Londonderry in the near future?
Well, it depends if Londonderry decides to join any of those suits. It
Well,
could have a
Do you have
major
some
impact.
specific information you'd like it to be placed on the website, or on the Facebook page?
Yes.
We can talk about that after.
Well,
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a meeting, and unfortunately, two of our members were traveling, and we weren't
We
able
were going
to.
to, yeah. there
I
was-
asked for a meeting, and it just didn't work out, so we
Yeah.
will do it, and we will come prepared.
Here's just an example of some of the information that is available, free of charge, by the way. And that some of it perhaps has already been put out to the general public here in Londonderry. But perhaps we could get some of this and maybe post it somewhere. Or, I don't know if we could mail it. But once again, I think that getting the word out is really important. Here's an example here that the Conservation Commission did, okay?
Is there a PDF of that we could, I mean, if you have things that we can get on PDF to post on Facebook.
Well, we'd have to check with Conservation in that
Yeah, yeah,
regard, okay? I don't know how they did this, what the cost was, but we could check with Marge in that regard. You know what I mean?
Do you have extra copies, Ray, of that information? Maybe we
Sure.
could just look at it?
Sure,
Because we
absolutely.
don't know who produced
Absolutely.
it, or...
And beyond that, there's an awful lot going on in the town in regards to water, in regards to sewer, that perhaps we don't really have much control over, but it's really important. And I think it would be good if we could get that information out to those who are making decisions. For instance, we're talking about bringing water down High Range Road, but it's really up in the air. We're now waiting on St. Gobans to tell us, wait a minute, tell the state
what they are or are not going to do.
That's correct.
And there's nobody that's really going to, who's going to push them to do anything?
I think there's a lot of people who are pushing them. to
Well,
do
they're
things.
pushing, yes, but they're the big guys. And so, consequently, things get dragged out. And so hopefully, we can have some effect with those that are making decisions. We have the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services that are key people doing great work, are trying to help out the town moving forward. The town manager's not here.
The assistant town manager is.
Assistant town manager. Oh, so can I ask, where are we at with the application for the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund?
We went over that right before you got here.
I
I
wasn't here.
No, I know, so I'm just saying we went over that. So
You have a
the deadline is
responsibility
October
to be here,
13th, and Weston and Sampson is doing the application for us.
So that's,
That's correct.
Yep.
It's,
That's
it's
in the
being
works.
worked on.
Yeah, it's
It-
being worked on.
The intention is for it to be submitted in accordance with the deadlines.
do
for
we
the
know
grant.
how much the town is putting in for?
Putting in for,
Or
The
either
amount.
grant or a
So-
loan?
So that amount of money right now is in flux because we had some new information that we got. So that information will be decided before the 13th. Is my understanding. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
So
Is Robert Scott going to make that decision? I mean, that's where the money's coming from, right?
I guess I'd have to say I'd let you know when I know. So by the 13th, I can let you know.
Okay.
Moving on. Solid Waste Committee, Sewer and Solid Waste. So I will say the town council has, I don't know if disbanded is the right word or not, but the Solid Waste Committee is no longer a committee. And it's, the responsibilities of the committee are gonna be split up into Beautify Londonderry and into this committee. We have to sit down and figure out what that means. That's something that we'll be doing in the next month or 6 weeks, I think. And we'll be bringing that, when I say we, John and Joy and I are right now members of the Solid Waste Committee, and so I think the three of us will be putting together our recommendations for moving forward with the detailed tasks that were being accomplished by the Solid Waste Committee. So that's new on our list, and other than that, I don't think there's been any activity. And then with cable and internet, I did send out an email that I got from the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, where they are establishing a regional committee, steering group for getting internet out to disadvantaged people into some of the more rural communities today that don't have full internet capability out to everybody's house. So they're looking for volunteers to join that steering committee. If anybody is interested in that, I think that'd be a very worthwhile endeavor, understanding that it's regional and not Londonderry specific.
5 years. Cable chairman, I don't know.
So,
I will probably sometime in November, maybe sit down with the CTV folks and maybe do an article on, maybe you guys don't know this, but the FCC is kind of easing up on what the cable companies have to carry for local broadcasts, and they're starting to limit that. So I might want to do a little technical thing about, this is the antenna you can buy, this is where it plugs in, this is how you take and change the mode on your TV, and oh, by the way, here are 42 channels that you can get free. So
Oh, wow.
I'll work on that. later
that'd be
on.
awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
And kind of tying in with that comment, John, I know the Cable Access Center across the street would be more than happy to work with anybody on doing any kind of video information, broadcast, interview, or anything like that anybody
sure they would.
really wants to put together.
I'm smiling because, maybe Doug knows, I'm the one who forced in the tax.
Yep.
So we could build that place.
Oh, no. I think it's great. I've done
It
one
is great.
video. I've done one video in my life regarding Sharps disposal a few years ago, and it was an interesting experience from that
Yep.
aspect as well. But if anybody has any ideas on videos and you want to put
They will-
together
they will.
something,
Yeah.
we do have the assets
idea.
across the street.
Yeah.
That would be a good opportunity for maybe
Yes, one of us getting in front of them.
Yep.
for water.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe interviewing a few people.
That's what you and I were talking about.
There you go.
There you go.
I'll be
So-
Walter Concrete. She'll be.
So,
Okay.
so that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
And with that, moving into roundtable discussion, we'll start with Ron.
Sure.
Anything?
So last time I told you guys that New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services was going to come here to the town and do some presentations. I've seen preliminary slides. Mike has seen preliminary slides. I'm not sure if you got to see them. But we're going back and forth with the slides, and then they will be getting some hard dates. So hopefully I can get some dates, hopefully within a week or two from them as to when they can be here. But they do have a whole presentation for us to give to the town. And from what I understand, they're still planning on 2 or 3 meetings. So that is the update I have for there.
Perfect.
All right?
Great.
They're planning on, DES is planning on 2 or 3 public meetings?
Yep.
Okay. As well as coming here and chatting with us?
No, 2 or 3 public meetings. They came here and spoke to us
Right,
earlier
a
in the
while
year.
ago.
If
Yeah,
you want
it should-
me to have them come back, we can do that too. It's up to you
Well, I
guys.
was just thinking it'd be useful since we don't have anything, it would be useful maybe to get some additional information on the consent decree.
I think so too. I think that they could come back and talk to us,
Okay. Let me
because I
work-
mean, it is filmed too, so
Yep.
that would be,
And if you
Should
had
we-
something specific you wanted to hear about, I think that'd be worthwhile to let Ron know as well. So when he extends the invitation, that they know what to talk to.
Yep.
And maybe we wait until after the public meetings, if they're coming fairly soon.
Yep.
Do you think
Yeah.
they're coming fairly soon?
I-
So maybe we can wait until after the public meetings, and then we'll have, that will drive maybe some concrete questions for us to,
that's true.
I don't know the amount of, I know there's a certain amount of legal time they have to, give their presentation. So I'm sure when the slides are finalized, they'll say, maybe you have a week or 2, and then you announce the meeting, and then you have another meeting. So I would say, yeah, just a matter of them telling us when they can come here, and then us posting it on all our social channels to get people here to see the presentation.
Will it be before this committee, or will it be town council?
It's going to be, from my understanding, it's going to be on a date when they're going to come here and they're going to present to the community.
It's a public meeting.
Public meeting, is my understanding.
Okay,
General public
Yeah,
meeting,
Joe,
as
yeah.
I understand it, not specific to council. or
Right.
least.
okay.
It's a DES run
Right. Yeah.
How can we
Here-
get,
meeting,
how
essentially.
can we
Okay.
get the word out to the general public in that regard?
So I would think through the social media channels, the last time DES did a meeting like this, they had a huge turnout, over 200 people. And I was asking them too if they could do it online again, like they did last time. And I got mixed reviews. Like they said they were going to try. So I'll try to get more information as to that go. But they definitely are going to come here.
Yeah, but I mean,
Should we consider
In-
different
something in the newspaper,
I think last time we did social media, we did newspaper, we did the moms.
As soon as
Londonderry
we
moms,
have
and-
it, we will,
Typically, we
Yeah.
publish it on our
Yeah.
website, just like when DOT does something.
Yeah.
And we can certainly publish it on our social media. You
put it
guys
on our
can
Facebook
publish it on
page.
yours.
and we could, yeah, we could
Facebook.
do some sort of article for the paper or something,
Absolutely.
yeah. As long as we
Yeah.
get the date. Yep.
Yeah, I'll get you the dates, absolutely.
Judd?
Not that the committee needs more topics, but I belong to a home heating oil buying group, an alliance, and I've been in them for about 3 years now. And I'm gonna say, with the exception of maybe a couple of months where market price dipped very low, they've consistently beat the market. Not that I'm advocating for this particular group, but maybe a thought. This is the wrong time of year because most of those deals have closed out, but for the following season, to look into that kind of an offering on a townwide basis, or perhaps forming our own heating oil alliance.
Interesting.
I think that is brilliant.
food for
Since
thought.
heating oil is so expensive.
is there a particular
Very-
supplier?
It's
or-
brilliant.
They put it out to bid every year, and this year it happens that I have a different supplier than I had last year. And I'm not throwing names out because I don't want to be.
Okay, that's fine.
advertising.
Are you the one that puts out the bid?
Not me, no.
No, but what's the organization?
That's another name I'm not gonna throw out there, Ray, but it's an organization that does this kind of thing. But they're only one, there may be others, and we also may want to explore if there's an interest.
Do they have a website? You can send me the link to the website.
I can
Why
share.
don't you do that?
Thank you.
And we'll get it up.
Yeah.
You know, the pre-buys have seemed to have gone away in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't
Yeah.
know why. but
Yeah.
That'd be good. Thank you, John.
Yep.
We can start a corporation. No, we can't do that.
Anything else, John?
That's it.
Ray?
Yeah, Manchester Water. Would it be possible to have them come and speak here?
With what in mind, what goal in mind?
Finding out about municipal water coming to Londonderry. Keep in mind, most of the water comes from Lake Massabesic, Manchester Water.
Yep.
The 5 million gallons sitting up in North Londonderry belongs to Manchester Water. What is the status of that? What's happening with that? I think we should know.
You could reach out to them.
Yeah, I'm trying to formulate in my own mind the question to ask.
Well,
When-
Pennachuck came.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me approach Mike and see what Mike's take on it is.
You're aware that there's supposed to be a 30-inch line coming down from that 5 million gallons. They've been talking about that for a year and a half, maybe 2
Yeah,
years.
at the last meeting, they approved that.
Yeah.
They got
Huh?
that. At the
When-
last meeting, they got that.
When's it happening?
I don't know when's it happening, but they got approval to get the water to supply it.
Well,
Right.
that's been the case for quite some time.
That
But-
could-
yeah.
I'll let Lynn handle it. That could be just a simple
Yeah,
question on the phone.
I'll ask the question.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's enough for now.
Enough for now. Jeff?
No comment.
I have no comment.
Happy clam.
Well,
Just want to let you know that Twin States Clean Energy held like an open house information center on September 6th at the Senior Center, Londonderry Senior Center. So I attended.
Thank you.
They did a very nice job. They had a lot of the staff members there to answer questions. Various, around the rooms, various information available so people could focus on what was more important to them, and a lot of one-on-one conversations. So I thought it was pretty well done. It really was.
what type of attendance did they have?
I was there for the first hour between 5 and 6, and 5 people showed up.
So I was just a little disappointed is the wrong word. I just wasn't aware of it until like the last minute because I got a mailer, I'm sure, I assume I got a mailer that just went right into the recycling bin with all the presidential ads, so.
So at that time, I was informed by some of the staff that the decision by the federal government would be within 2 weeks.
Really?
So I've not heard
Yeah,
anything.
and as far as I know, that hasn't happened.
No.
Okay, so,
The federal government is.
I thought this was
within
gonna be
2
like
weeks.
18 months before the,
So,
well, they were in the running for
Right.
funding,
They were in the running for funding, and they were waiting on that,
but
whether or not
there may
their
have
project
been
would be
A few
approved.
distractions in Washington these days.
Yeah, yeah.
to say the least, right?
can we still ask the question, what is the benefit to the town of Londonderry?
Well, I think that's one of the questions we did ask.
We didn't get any definite answer,
but
did we?
We did not.
No.
So the project's still years away.
Well, is it, if they've already got federal,
No,
Well, they don't have it yet.
they haven't even engineered it, they haven't done any, they won't do any of that unless they get the funding.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's a long way away.
Yep.
okay.
No,
Okay.
yeah, we asked the questions when they were here. I think we're in a monitoring status at this point in time with them.
Keep in mind, this is nothing new.
Oh,
This is nothing new. I'm sure they've done plenty of engineering, but,
well, we only know what we know.
well,
No. Anything else, Paul?
That's it.
Okay. Ann?
I'm fine.
Joy?
Yeah, just that, as Lynn said, as the Solid Waste and Environment Committee is no longer, Town Council did pass a resolution establishing Beautify Londonderry as a town committee. So, just that's news, and we have currently 3 members. It established it as a 5-member committee. So if anyone knows anyone, we would like 2 members. So we're gonna be advertising for 2 members for the committee.
And your next event is next
Our
weekend?
next event is October 14th. That's our fall cleanup. It's our short time where we only do one day. And we will be in front of the school, Matthew Thornton, 9 to 12, handing out all of the supplies. If anyone would love to come down, we'd love to have you.
Yep. I was telling my wife today, we drove up our street and you could see all the trash, and it's just like, it's time to get out and pick it up before winter. Let's, take care of it. So it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Free bags.
Free bags.
Free
Gloves.
bags. Nice vest to wear for a little while. That's right.
Okay. And anything else?
That's
So I just wanted to say one thing, if you get 5 minutes, send me your thoughts, privately. What do you think, where we're lacking as a committee, what we can do differently, what we're doing well? I would just like some feedback, in the spirit of continuous improvement. Just, let me know sometime. If you want to get together for a cup of coffee, we'll get together for a cup of coffee.
I might call you.
Yeah. But happy to hear what your thoughts are. I want to make sure that this is working for everybody. It's a time commitment. I think it's a very good endeavor that we've undertaken for the community, and I want to make it the best that we can possibly make it. So, your help is appreciated on that. And with that, our next meeting is Tuesday, November 7th. It'll be the first Tuesday in November. And is there any other business?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.